Thank you for having me. Good morning, everybody. My name is Maya Hari. I represent Twitter here today. Great to be here. What a lovely crowd. It's really nice to come to Bangkok and meet the wider app developer ecosystem and the industry here. A little bit of what I'm going to be talking about today is around discovery and engagement and quality of users. I want to give you a little bit of the Twitter perspective. I think as a social network, we're very open as a network. We're public, we're conversational. This brings a few dimensions that are quite unique. As you think about audience engagement and audience development for apps in your ecosystem, there might be some unique things that you can think of. Hopefully there are some ideas that we can inspire here today. One of my favorite statistics from last year was the human attention span. Research says human attention span is now at 8 seconds. And that's pretty much the same attention span of a goldfish, right? It's amazing that we're now, evolution has brought us to this point where we can equate ourselves to goldfish. And I have to say that part of this has been stemmed from the fact that all of us are in the business that we're in. It's because of mobile. Mobile is the internet now. And everything is snacking on mobile. And we've literally very actively driven the goldfish phenomenon to happen as far as human attention span goes. And Twitter's no exception. In fact, we're big contributors to this, in my opinion. We have 6,000 tweets a second that happen globally, right? How consumers are constantly sort of engaging, consuming the kind of tweets publicly all the time. Of these tweets, what is phenomenal last year is when we took a look at tweets that were related to apps. This number actually blew my mind. There was 44 million tweets in a span of 30 days about the top 20 apps in Play Store and Google and iOS Play Stores. This is phenomenal. 44 million tweets. Consumers are talking about apps they're trying, apps they want to try, experiences of how they're feeling as they go through the app environment, whether it's gaming or otherwise. And it brings me to the three key pillars that I really look at the app ecosystem. This shouldn't be new news to you, but I really bucket it this way. There's a discovery phase. Discovery can be organic or it can be through paid marketing. And I think as an app ecosystem, we really want to be able to focus on both of those parts, the organic and the promoted side of things. There's engagement, which is the next step. Really, are you engaging with that consumer? And then once the consumer converts to be a user of the app, what does the quality and the loyalty look like? One of the things that Twitter has really been known for traditionally has been a place where people come to discover things. It started out as traditionally discovering news. There used to be, I think research showed that there was literally a 15-minute lag between when something broke on Twitter, typically news, breaking news, and when it was carried in mass media. Now, Twitter's evolved over a period of time, and one of the use cases that has evolved is consumption not just around news and discovery not just around news, but a number of things, lifestyle, including apps, right? People want to find out what's the next cool new thing to try, whether that is a restaurant or it's an app, right? And this is now one of the fairly dominant consumer trends that we see in terms of consumption on Twitter. Just for fun, I actually pulled up what conversations around apps looked like, and this was day before night, getting ready with the slides then. And literally, there were different conversations. Someone announcing the publishing of a bird atlas app. People talking about Tinder. Was that a real? Is that really an app still? Are people still using it? Commenting about that. Someone talking about their drive being recorded by an app. This is the kind of conversation. This is real. This is as of 48 hours ago, right? What do you do with this? Is really the amazing question, and is it useful for all this conversation to be happening, and what does it mean for app publishers? So just to sort of drive that vein of thought around discovery, we recently at Twitter announced a partnership with key app developers to be able to feature and make app listings as part of the profile on Twitter, right? As part of driving more organic discovery of apps on Twitter. Here's an example and a screenshot of Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal's profile listing and official presence on Twitter also includes presence of their app with their ratings and things like that. So it's a great first step to be able to drive some of that organic discovery. There's also other things. These days, you see a number of apps, commerce, gaming, having brand ambassadors. If you think about the key opinion leaders on Twitter, Twitter has a very strong affinity with celebrities, with newsmakers, with opinion leaders. Here's an opportunity now to marry those two, right? We see, and I see this in Japan quite a bit, right, as part of the gaming industry. Here's a TV star who has tweeted about an app, and that tweet is then taken by that. So there's a lot of earned coverage and earned discovery based on that celebrity's tweet that she's endorsing, but there's also the ability for that app to be able to whitelist the celebrity saying that and market it on behalf of the app itself, right? This makes for a very native and very authentic discovery process of apps on Twitter. Talking about gaming industry specifically, one of the other things that's very unique to our social platform is talkability, right? And I'll unpack a little bit more on why we think talkability correlates to audience development in general. But we found that audiences on Twitter were 72% more likely to talk about the app they were experiencing than average internet consumers. Right, so you start to see the consumer's relationship with the platform about expressing themselves as medium of expression start to come through really in a heavy way with apps. You might ask and you might say, so what? There's people talking about all these apps. What is in it? How do I really, think about that? How do I do something about it? Here's an interesting graph. We've anonymized this graph. What you see in the lighter blue is actually the installs for the app from App Annie, third-party data, and what you see as the line is essentially mentions on Twitter. So the number of conversations that are happening publicly on Twitter about the app, right? And you can see there's a very, very strong correlation there between the number of mentions that happen about an app and the installs that are being driven. So this to me is proof point to start thinking about how do you cultivate conversations and audiences from your super users, from your users of your app to be your brand ambassadors on the platform, right? There's a lot to be had on the organic side because there's a lot of earned discovery and engagement, but there's also obviously an opportunity to accelerate that through promoting the app on Twitter. Another great example that I wanted to share, this is a real example from the Super Bowl in the US. Supercell actually had a TV ad featuring Liam Neeson and had aired that during Super Bowl. One thing that we very quickly learned is that there's a strong correlation also between what happens on TV and what consumers tweet about, right? And this has been something that traditionally a lot of consumer product brands have leveraged very well, right? So you might think of the CPG kind of advertisers leveraging this very well. What is new and recent is our performance advertisers now really thinking very heavily about how to leverage their offline TV advertising and how do they tie that to Twitter. Here's an example. Let me show you the TV ad with Liam Neeson so you can get the context of what's going on.
I don't know you, big buffet boy 85, but if you think you can humiliate me and take my gold, think again. Oh, I'm coming for you with lots of barbarians and dragons. I can't wait.
So very fun ad. This was an ad that Supercell aired for Clash of Clans on TV. So I'm going to show you a graph of how the tweet impressions went when this ad got aired on TV. So tweet impressions are basically views of tweets that talk about organic or paid, that talk about Supercell. So here's what it looked like. There's a massive spike that happens right when it gets aired on TV. It's because people are immediately talking about it. Here are some of the conversations that happened. And a lot of people reacting to Liam Neeson being part of that, to the Clash of Clans ad itself. So really strong correlation there. Here's another opportunity to think very carefully about how do you cultivate this, how do you be a part of these conversations, and how do you have a companion strategy to be able to leverage some of the offline marketing that you might be doing. One of the, moving from discovery and engagement to really talking about scaling and being able to find the right quality audiences, one of the interesting things we've done in recent times is we had acquired a company called as MoPub about 1.5 years ago. And essentially, MoPub is an exchange, a network that brings together high-quality apps. And we have Twitter's owned and operated presence. What we've done is now brought together these two offerings, and we have a way of connecting app advertisers to audiences that they want to connect with by using some of the interesting targeting signals from Twitter to connect with audiences on Twitter, but also to connect with audiences in apps outside of Twitter, right? So this is sort of makes it a very interesting proposition to be able to scale the same thing otherwise. Essentially, the targeting signals are quite simple. There's a lot of actions on Twitter that happen that essentially allow you to know more about the audience, whether that's interests, whether that's following, who they follow, what they favorite, are all things that you essentially, we learn a lot about audiences from. So we build an interest graph really about an audience pool. And all these actions in aggregate are then taken and extended. Also, not only do we know this about audiences on Twitter, we're able to take that same interest graph and extend off Twitter. So we are able to identify users in the MoPub network that are, and we call this the Twitter audience platform, that are Twitter users, but we also have a model, a lookalike model, that will tell us users like those users of Twitter as part of the Twitter audience platform. And all of the great targeting options that we have, which are very interesting, so interest-based targeting, as well as things like handle targeting, et cetera, can all be extended both on and off Twitter. So this is a fairly new offering that we've really brought the innovation to extend what we have on Twitter to extend off as well. It's something that the industry has really been asking us for quite significantly. So you can see here the same sort of ad would extend from on Twitter in an image format or a video format, off Twitter in an app, in a different app, that would look like an interstitial in the app. To come to my final segment, really what I would love for everybody to think about is purchasing funnel is really happening fully on Twitter. If you see the number of mentions, I've taken the example of the iPhone, the iWatch launch here. You can see people tweeting about different aspects of the iWatch discovery process and the purchase process, and literally tweets that show you through the entire marketing funnel. So if you have an e-commerce app, you may want to think about how do you engage with these users throughout the marketing funnel, and how do you have a consistent marketing strategy there. Finally, some stats to leave you with. The average Twitter user, we find, is more tuned to apps and has a better appetite for apps, so 25% more apps on their device than average, as well as better in-app purchase and propensity to purchase. So these are the ways and the metrics that we use to be able to evaluate your audience and our audience in general. That's really all I had from the perspective. Hopefully this was useful and inspires some ways to think about how do you leverage audiences that are talking and saying interesting things about the app ecosystem on Twitter. Thank you.
Please stay on stage, Maya. We'd like to invite Mrs. Purnima Venkatesh to present a token of appreciation, please.